I am Captain Logan, and this is day 270 of Spawn Year. I'm back in Backwards Land, excited today to return to the main book over Dark Ages. That last arc took a lot out of me, and considering the unusual amount of praise I heaped on the two-part Hellbound story about Nyx's trip to the underworld, I immediately allowed myself a little hope that Hogman's writing would remain at that caliber, moving back into the regular world and focusing on Al Simmons again. Although I shouldn't have assumed Al would come out of his coma this issue solely based on the cover. After all, I've been making fun of Capullo's unrelated covers a lot lately, and Al was on the front of 140 but never appeared in that issue. But he has already come out of his coma this issue, and I'm still deeply perplexed as to why a long clown story seems to have been concocted just to get Nyx to hell for 2 issues. The way Night of 1,000 Clowns ended was abrupt and jarring, and the way Clown mercifully just shut down his demonic takeover is totally unbelievable. And all that for what? So Spawn's got a noble, heroic act under his belt just to announce his plans to get vengeance on everyone trying to control him this issue? I know I complain about decompression and wasted panel time a lot, but this is even 3 times worse than 137. This one felt like a fourth of a comic book. As I turned to the last page, I could have sworn I'd only read about 5. Shall I take you through it page for page again? Page 1. Al climbing a steep precipice with no rappelling equipment. He must be in a fantasy in his own head. Huh, maybe I'll turn the page and Doomsvince will challenge him to read a bunch of Spawn comics. Aww. Page 2 and 3, Spawn makes it to heaven. Hey, that never happens to me, unless you count the game room. Page 4 and 5, Al marveling at heaven's opulence. I like the juxtaposition of the majesty of paradise after the gloomy despair of hell last arc, and getting Medina back here and immediately drawing heaven creates a sense of deliberate contrast. I think they've really earned the dramatic tone shift in art there, and I'm impressed by the thoughtful way that was handled. Al thinks he's finally going to have another heart-to-heart with God when, page 6, he comes face-to-face with Maman. Dun dun dun! Last time we saw Maman on Al's head, it looked like we'd finally learned something about his undoubtedly stereotypically traumatic childhood, but it went nowhere. I bet this is going to be kind of like that. Page 7, Al's still in a coma. Thanks, I figured that one out all on my own. Page 8 and 9, Redeemer's flying around because he's finally free! Q-Seal's rendition of Fly Like an Eagle. Page 10 and 11, seriously, 4 whole pages of this? I guess Hogman and Medina wanted to be sure I'd believe an anti-Spawn could fly. Redeemer thinks about the debt he owes Nyx for getting him out of hell, not realizing she had no intention of keeping her word and just got lucky it all worked out and he heads back to Earth. Page 13 and 14, Nyx wakes up from her ritual that sent her to hell. She berates herself for doing it, then takes a nap while Al simultaneously wakes up, I guess because she releases the strand of his costume she stole. Whatever. Page 14, 15, and 16, still internal monologue from Redeemer. He's been looking down on humanity and our pathetic, inconsequential little concerns until he steps back and remembers he is not some superior being, but really Eddie, and was just a kid, a young adult before this happened to him. His language has been really formal, and it was hard to tell just how much of the human part of Eddie was there. He's presented here as the same guy, but changed by his experiences, and now his voice seems like it's his own, evolved by time and adventure. I like that. But another 3 pages devoted to it is kind of ridiculous. Page 17, Spawn escapes from his hospital room and the federal agents chase after him. How long have these guys been sitting around waiting for him to get up? Page 18 and 19, Spawn flies over the city like a demonically possessed Superman, his mind angrily pulsating about everyone who's been trying to take advantage of him and plotting his revenge. I guess it's all about Spawn again. So much for all that talk about absolution and selflessness. Page 20, Spawn's mean to some people in a cab and then gets even angrier when he sees a picture of the clowns he fought in the front of a newspaper. Come on, Spawn, try finding a little joy in still being alive. Don't you have a lot of good to do now to make up for all the terrible deeds you did with the bad attitude you're displaying here? He has reason to be angry, sure, but I'm smelling character regression. Page 21, Spawn busts through the wall of the building Nyx had walled herself up in and demands she gets up. And page 22, Nyx wants to die. That seems a little overly dramatic. Yeah, Nyx obliterated the soul of her best friend and certainly wishes she'd never gone there, but she also eased Fia's suffering, gave her what she really wanted, and released someone who didn't belong in hell. What does Haldwin expect me to get all riled up for from this? Nyx isn't going to die, and Spawn's not gonna kill her. And after she took it upon herself to go to hell on her own because her conscience wouldn't allow her to give Spawn over to Mammon, who has to know where Spawn is by now, constantly popping in his head, right? I hope Spawn would be the least bit understanding about the desperate measures she took and encourage her to stay alive and move on, like he swore to do when he was reborn for the umpteenth time. But it's more likely he'll chastise her for violating him, act all passive-aggressive when she apologizes, and then harumph and try to help her get through this with as little enthusiasm and compassion as humanly possible. If that's not how this goes tomorrow, I will write a haiku about next issue. Signed, Captain Logan.